This is Jason Jones with the City Salt. We're interviewing Colby T. Helms today. It's August 13th, 2023. We're at the Lion Blues Observatory in Roanoke, Virginia. Welcome, Colby. Thanks for being here with us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. I was recently at your 21st birthday.
Yeah, man.
A lot of fun, big turnout.
That was great times.
A lot of good music going on, and it was at your house, which is a really cool house, and your dad built the house, right?
Yeah.
When was that? When did he build it?
Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit about that. My dad grew up in a home place right down the road from there, and it ended up getting split up to where he got some land, but his brother ended up owning the house, the home place, so he said, well, I'm going to build my own house, and he ended up going to Virginia Western and getting a civil engineering degree in the 70s, and he said, I'm going to build my own house. I want to build an underground house that's, like, efficient, energy efficient. And so he started in 1979, and he had a civil engineering degree, and he was trying to work a job in Kentucky designing and building the pads, these big concrete pads that they put those power towers on. And he was driving back and forth, and he said, I was making good money, but it wasn't worth it. And so he quit and went work for himself and started doing handyman work. And he was just known around the county as the handyman to call when, you needed somebody to come help you. And he was always ready to, provide a helping hand. But anyway, that got in the way of him building his house. So he didn't finish the house till 1999. So there was a weird period where the outside part of the house wasn't built yet, so it was just a big concrete box, and they had a storage container door that pulled down and it latched at the bottom. But that was before I was born. But then after they got it done in 1999, that's when my parents decided, okay, now we want to have a kid. So they had me really late in life, but I'm lucky to, grow up in such a neat little house like that. A lot of people really like it, and it's the first underground house in Franklin County.
Very cool. It's kind of ahead of its time.
Yeah, he was definitely
sustainable.
When he first built it, a lot of people kind of, thought it was kind of a joke, like kind of a, an attraction almost, like just a random quirky thing, but they don't realize that we don't pay that much in electric bill, every month compared to other people, because the house, the coldest it'll get in the winter in the back is like 60 degrees.
Wow.
That's the coldest it'll get. And then we have a wood stove that heats the house, so we don't have to, deal with that. We cut wood all the time and use that for firewood. And then we have one air conditioner for the summer. It's a 1984, I think, General Electric air conditioner. And that thing is still going strong, and we don't use it that much. It'll probably get the highest it gets is probably 75 in the house. So,
what would your dad have thought of all of those people up there at your birthday playing music in the house?
He would have loved it. He would have loved it. So my dad was a really big music enthusiast, and back in the 70s, him and his buddies had like this old string band. That was a really popular thing in the 70s in this area, is string bands, which was kind of, people didn't have the internet back then, so also people didn't have access to, facts and history like we do. Like we can just look up something on Google right now. They didn't have that, so you have a lot of these people doing string bands, which is a mix of old time and bluegrass. It's not necessarily one or the other.
Right.
Just a bunch of old boys getting together and playing some music. And he was in one of those string bands. He played the juice harp, which is or called a jaw harp. It's got a bunch of different terms. One of the slang terms is a juice harp, and then another one is a Jew's harp. But it's a jaw harp, and it's basically this little harp you put in your mouth. It's got two metal bars and something in the middle that flanges around, and you put it on your teeth, and then when you hit it with your fingers, it makes a doing doing sound. If you ever heard Chicken Train by the Ozark Mountain Daredevils, or a lot of those tunes like that have juice harp in them. And he used to play that with the band, and he would have big parties at his house and get all them guys to come, and they would jam and practice, and he would cook up food for everybody. And he was actually planning to put a private bar in his living room where the TV is, but Mama was like, no, we're not doing the private bar.
Very cool. So in the spirit of what he would have done as well. I like that.
Exactly. He was there in spirit for sure.
I'm sure your mom was ready to get the biggest hippies used backdoor sign she could find.
Oh no, she loved it. She said, "I was sad to see everybody go," is what she said. So that was a great time, man.
That's awesome. So obviously your dad was a big music enthusiast. What
yeah.
about your mom? I know you dedicated this whole cowboy tour at one of your shows, the Marshall
yeah.
Tucker song.
Yeah. She used to be really big into music. She showed me all her ticket stubs from the '70s. She was really big into rock at the time. She wasn't really into bluegrass or any of that type of stuff until later on, but until my dad, and she still didn't really like it when my dad was around. And when I started taking it up after he passed away, she was like, you know what, I really, I'm coming around to it. But back in the day, she was a wild child. She was going and listening to, let's see, her first concert I think was the Doobie Brothers. And Marshall Tucker, she saw Marshall Tucker at Victory Stadium in Roanoke several times. And so that's why I always do that song, because my mom, even though that she's like a music enthusiast, she doesn't really into it like me or my dad. So there's a lot of songs that I'll play and I'll be like, "Don't you remember this? It's from like your time period." She's like, "No, I don't remember that song at all."
She's having fun.
Yeah, she's like, "I don't remember that song at all," but she did remember This Old Cowboys. That's why I always do that song for her.
Hey, she's got good taste.
Yeah.
I saw them at Rooster Walk, and they've been touring since the '70s, I think. And
Yeah.
probably the best band there still.
Yeah, man, they're great.
Absolutely. Well, that's very cool, man. And you're obviously a music enthusiast yourself, somewhat of a historian, it seems like, and you were kind of alluding to it, that those string bands kind of passed down the history in a way.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And your story about the juice harp's way cooler than if we could Google it, I think.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's kind of cool. I just got back from Galax Fiddlers Convention, actually at 5 a.m. this morning. That's a thing that's been going on since the 1930s. And it's basically these fiddlers conventions happen all around the South, and it was a way to get different people to come from all over to compete to see who was the best, and it was just a really good way to get everybody together and keep the music alive. They figured if they made it a competition, that's a good way to keep people coming back. And so you have these conventions all over the South, but not a lot of them are still going. But Galax is the oldest one that's still running. And so you have a lot of these old, like generations after generations coming to Galax. So I try to make it out there every year. And, this week was a really busy week for me. And, I'm getting my album together and, getting my business set up and getting my career going. And,
were you playing music or just attending as a fan this year?
Oh, well, I was just attending as a fan. I didn't compete in the competition because I didn't have time. But I did get to go down there and see all my friends. And Galax, it's people jam from as soon as it gets dark until it gets light. So I stayed up there till 3 o'clock, and I was like, all right, I got to go back and get ready for tomorrow. But that's a great time. That's a great way that people still carry the tradition, and where I've met some of my best friends and learned a lot about the style of music that I play. A lot of it's influence from people I've met there.
Yeah. How long have you been going to it now?
Let's see, I'd say since me and Stuart Werner met, probably since high school, I'd say I was 16, 17 when I first went there.
That's awesome.
But that really, I was already playing guitar heavy then, but then when I went there, I got to see a lot of musicians that, not put me in my place, but gave me a reality check.
Yeah.
And so I was like, it's time to practice. It's time to practice hard.
That's a good feeling.
And so, I did. I practiced hard, and now I've just got this first album, Tales of Misfortune, going, and, I'm starting to put that practice into play. So,
who are some of the players you've met there? Do you still play with some of them?
Yeah. In fact, a couple of them that I met, Danny and David Nicely, they both play on Tales of Misfortune.
Oh, cool.
They I met there, and Billy Hurt, I met them through him. He's one of my best buds, and he lives in Boone's Mill as well. But
Billy's a fiddle player.
Yeah,
right?
And he's always been a mentor and a good buddy to me, and kind of showed me the fiddler convention life and filled me in on a lot of the history and stuff about it. And I met a lot of the good players that I know through him, probably a majority of them, honestly. So that's super
Is Billy in another group too?
Well, he has his own group called 5 Mile Mountain Road Band.
Yeah, I thought.
And he's got players in that from all over the country. So they're a really unique band that you can't find anywhere else, honestly.
They seem like a really cool band, and
Yeah.
I know you mentioned Brennan Ernst from that band.
Yeah, he actually just won Galax's guitar competition this year. He had to go back to Philadelphia to make a gig. And he played the guitar competition, I guess it was earlier this week, and they announced it on Saturday night, and then they announced it, and he wasn't even here to get it, but he won, and he's been going there for many, many years, and that's, I think, the first time he's ever won, and it's crazy because, they used to be like, oh, man, he should have won, and he won, and Billy won fiddle this year. So,
how about that?
So they're starting to, make a comeback there, and that's really awesome. Really great for me seeing the people that, have showed me a lot about music get some recognition.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I'm all about, is taking the old music, as well as my music, but keeping the old music relevant.
I think that's so cool that you're stepping into the tradition, keeping it alive, as well as doing your own thing too. One song I've seen you play live a couple times, and I think you said Brennan might have taught it to you, is "Ding Dong Daddy" from Doomers.
Yeah, well that one's kind of a fan favorite because he didn't necessarily teach it to me, but they did it on their album, on 5 Mile Mountain Road band album, and I have to fill in sometimes on guitar for them when Brennan can't make it. And I wanted to have a couple of the things from their album so that I could actually fill in. And plus, it's big shoes to fill, and I'm not saying that I filled them well, but I did my best to get into that stuff a little bit. And then when I did it, I got such a good crowd response. I was like, dang, I really want to keep doing this. This song's really one that is meant for me. And so I started playing it a lot live, and I always get a good response. It's kind of become one of my main ones I get requests for, and people expect to hear when they come see me. So that's great to have a song like that.
Yeah, that's a little different flavor. It's kind of a Texas, Louisiana sound to it.
Yeah, exactly. It's got that western swing. It's got that drive to it, and it's got that swagger to it. It's just it's the way to prove that back in the day, there weren't just gospel songs, there were still cool songs like that, back in the day. And, Bob Wills got a lot of influence from blues in that era. And that was kind of a great bridge between the white and black cultures, is him bringing songs like that in there, that bawdy blues kind of edginess, that was kind of, it was ahead of its time. A lot of people didn't like it when it came out, but now in retrospect, it's pretty cool to think about.
Absolutely.
They were outlaws doing that stuff.
Little Lightning Hopkins vibe.
Yeah, man.
Man, you're a vinyl collector too, from what I understand.
Yes,
You've been at it for a while, I think.
Yeah.
Do you pick up a lot of your songs and influence from your vinyl collecting?
Yes, I'm very much into it, and it's really a kind of a switch that went off in my head because, I've always listened to old music, because I have YouTube, and I've always just searched up the records on there. But then when my mom bought me a record player when I was 16, and she paid a good bit of money for it, and I was like, oh no, because she used to always, be worried about money. She was a very money-conscious person. I was all upset because I was like, why did you spend the money on something that I'm not going to use when I have my phone? But I was just being very naive. Well, then it just sat for a while. Well, then somebody gave me some records or something, but somehow I got back into doing it, and then I put it in my barn, and I was having parties at my house and playing records, and I was like, nobody does that at my age. and so I was really into that, and then I realized that I loved it so much that I didn't want to just have it for that I just wanted to have it for myself and a personal thing. So I took it back into the house and keep it real nice and clean. And then I started really digging into records because I started realizing how much more I can hear on the stereo versus my crappy little iPhone right here.
Yeah.
It's like an old iPhone, whereas on my stereo I can hear a lot more stuff, and I can just keep replaying it back over and over and learn a lot of stuff from it. And so I picked up a lot of different things from listening to the records. I'd be like, oh, I didn't hear that before. Oh, I like that,
Yeah, a lot more to hear in a record. I like that about it. And you have a really eclectic taste. And, I've seen recently you posting about Mike Bloomfield and Parliament and the Allman Brothers and, wide variety of stuff. But we don't necessarily see that when you're performing live or recording music, you kind of distill it down to more of the string band stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it's cool that influence is floating around in the back of your head. And
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is, I have so much music influence. I treat it like somebody that is a professor that studies whatever field they're in. I mean, I just love it so much that that's what I'm consumed with all the time. And so, that influences are constantly floating in my head and giving me ideas. But, a true artist that wants to be unique takes that, like you're saying, and I distill it down and use little nuances in my songs and stuff so that other nerds and enthusiasts can hear that and be like, ooh, I see the bridge, I see the connections there. And they can pick up on those little nuances. And lots of songwriters have done that in the past. And, it's something I try to keep alive a little bit.
yeah, very cool. It doesn't feel like you're choosing albums randomly, just like that cover looks cool. They're important players. Mike Bloomfield from Butterfield Blues Band.
Oh, yeah.
61 Revisited. So, like, what makes you pick up an album and start listening to it? Where do you?
Well, it's just like I was saying. It's like a weird web. So one of the things I learned from my mentors and people that I've looked after as far as music, they said, find your musical hero and then find their musical hero and then find their musical hero and just follow that. And so that's what happened. When I started getting into blues, I would get into one person and I found out who their hero was and I found out who they worked with and follow that bridge back. And same thing with bluegrass and then with jazz and then that's just how I did it with all these different types of music. Funk, I started listening to Steely Dan a couple years ago, and on my record player was just one of the coolest albums I'd ever heard, and I was like, man, other people that are just like casual listeners don't really pick up on a lot of these things that's made for musicians to listen to. And so then that's what got me into, then I was like, well, I want to hear more groovy stuff, and I started getting into funk and soul, and then you just follow that path and it'll lead you to other different things. I mean, I used to not even like reggae music and stuff, but when I started hanging out in Roanoke more and listening to a lot of the live music, I got more into the jammy stuff, which I never really did before then, when I was just in Franklin County. And so I'd try to pick up on everything and listen intently to everybody and take a little bit from everything, just like a sponge.
Yeah, I love that. So we're going to see you delve into any other genres yourself out live? You're going to pick up an electric or something like that anytime soon?
No, probably not anytime soon, but I'm not saying that I won't ever. I'd love to, but, I still feel like that I'm just an amateur as far as what I'm doing now professionally, and I just want to work hard on that, but, master my craft as much as I can. On electric, I can hold my ground, but I just feel like I got so much to work on with this that it's hard for me to focus. Yeah. And that's one thing I'm really bad about is staying focused on one certain thing. So that's the only reason I try to stay with what I do for now. And, there's not many people keeping these different genres alive. I mean, there is, but there isn't,
Yeah.
And, I just feel like it's important for me to stay on my goal for now.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I still... Every once in a while, you'll catch me at a late night jam or something, and changing it up, and taking a little bit of a risk.
All right, got to stay up late for it. Absolutely. Well, give us 3 records that we're sleeping on that you've been listening to lately.
Okay, three records that I've been listening to lately. I got a few records for my birthday and stuff, and then I found a few records recently. One that I just recently got was the first Lost and Found record. The Lost and Found was a band from Franklin County, and 3 out of 4 of the members are still living, and I met all of them and hung out with them and learned from them a little bit, and they're a really unique band. Their first album is called First Time Around, and they're another band that was not really liked by the traditional bluegrass community when they came out.
All right.
But a lot of people now, when they listen to them, especially people in the new grass, mash grass community, they're just like, this is old. They don't see the nuances that tell how crazy and new they were.
Yeah.
But they use a lot of Western swing influence. They were the first band to do that song "My Window Faces the South" bluegrass style, which just a couple years after they did that album, J.D. Crowe and the New South, with Keith Whitley, released My Home Ain't in the Hall of Fame record, and that had that My Window Faces the South bluegrass style.
Yeah.
But the Lost found it first, and like they did New Riders of the Purple Sage, My Last Lonely Eagle. I mean, they did a lot of those songs like that and made them really, really good bluegrass style. And that's a really good record. And let's see here. Another one that I just got that was really good is Jerry Jeff Walker. He's another great songwriter.
From Texas, right?
He actually is from New York.
Oh, I know.
And but he got famous in Texas, and that he's a really unique guy. He wrote a lot of those classics, like Night Rider's Lament and Up Against the Wall, Redneck Mother, and a lot of those. Great. Actually, Ray Wiley Hubbard wrote that, but he made it famous. He wrote a lot of those like cowboy songs and stuff. Uh-huh. And I recently got one of his records, and that's been super fun. And let's see, another great one that I just recently got that I really, really enjoyed is actually the Flat and Scruggs record that you gave me for my birthday.
Oh, nice.
The Carnegie Hall one. That's great. Live Flat and Scruggs is always a good thing to listen to. They had a really great stage presence, and there's a reason that they're the most known bluegrass band. I mean, they were on the Beverly Hillbillies, and that right there made bluegrass a national. People could watch it anywhere in the country, and that's what got people all over the world really knowing what bluegrass was. So that's why they were such a all the bluegrass bands together back then. They were playing at bluegrass festivals. The festival funds, like the festival budget, would about pay for if you got Flat Scruggs to play at your venue. That's to show you the spectrum of that. No other bluegrass bands were making as much money as Flat and Scruggs.
No doubt. That's awesome.
And so everybody strived to be like them, and they all wanted to make as much money as them, but it didn't happen.
yeah, not too much room at the top.
Yeah.
Well, you have a new record coming out.
Yeah.
Tales of Misfortune. I'm excited to add that one to my collection when it comes out. I was going to see if you would play us a song off of it real quick, and then we'll talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, let's do the first single, actually, on this record. I wrote this one right when I got out of high school, just when I started going out and going on the road a little bit and traveling around and missing home and realizing how much home meant to me and how important it was to have some privacy. It's called Higher Ground. It's a little bit of a love tune, but it's going to be my first single. It's coming out on September 13th. That'll be available on all platforms. And I recently got to go down to North Carolina and record this solo, and I did it finger-picking style. Cool. And so we have two versions of it we're going to release, the album version and the solo version, excuse me. Cool. We're going to do the solo version here.
Very cool.
Once I was the running kind, I'd run these interstates. Now I'm running home if you're waiting there. Once I was the loving kind, I thought your heart would be all mine. I learned in good time that it could never be. Like dams and trees and honeybees, we are a dying breed. I'm gonna live way up in the holler. Can't stand the city no more. Working all my life trying to make a dollar. Wish things were how they were before. Gonna sweep you off your feet. I'm gonna take you to higher ground. We can dance the night away. We ain't gotta fool around. trying underground on these Nashville cats and Ariat hats that leave a sour taste in my mouth. Like Daddy said, you gotta keep your head in though and shut that mouth. Like dams and trees, lost southern melodies. We are a dying breed. I'm gonna live way up in the holler. Can't stand the city no more. Working all my life trying to make a dollar. Wish things were how they were before. I'm gonna sweep you off your feet. I'm gonna take you to higher ground. We can dance the night away. We ain't gotta fool around. Like dams and trees and honeybees. We are a dying breed. I'm gonna live way up in the holler. Can't stand the city no more. Working all my life trying to make a dollar. Wish things were how they were before. I'm gonna sweep you off your feet. I'm gonna take you to higher ground. We can dance the night away. We ain't gotta fool around. A little higher ground there.
Awesome. Thank you. That was great.
That's gonna be the first single, like I was saying. It's gonna come out September 13th. I'm really excited for it, man. I mean, like I was saying, I wrote that song when I was 17 years old, and I'm 21 now, and so it's just it's great to finally get these tunes out, you know.
Yeah, I love the specifics, the imagery of the dams and tree. It's you can tell the place means something, and you're
Yeah,
really
man.
trying to.
You know, I like to add nuances, like I was just saying. You know, not everybody knows what a dam's and plum tree is, but they might hear that lyric and think, "What is that?" and look it up. You know.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm a fan of strange pairings, and I feel like Photo Finish with you is a bit of a strange pairing. I don't see too many people with overalls on their website. They have kind of a footprint in alt rock and hip hop. It looks like.
Yeah, man. So that's what everybody has said to me, and that's kind of, in a way, I like the shock factor. There's a lot of record companies out there that would probably, what people would think would be a better fit for me. But the thing about it is, you know, they gave me a chance to express myself how I want to. You know, I knew that them being in the alt field and the indie field, that their artists have a lot of creative freedom, and that's what I'm all about. And, you know, in a way, I'm as alternative as anybody because I'm doing something that a lot of people aren't doing. I'm going against the grain, and they wanted somebody that's going against the grain. And I said, okay, let's do something because I got a lot in this brain that needs to be on a record. And you know, they signed me for a 2-option deal, which means you know, I'll probably be making 2 more records after this one for them.
Cool.
In this contract, and that's gonna be great because I already have 3 records, you know, in my head ready to go. Tales of Misfortune is just an introductory record to my music. And, you know, these songs are like my classics because they're the ones I wrote in my high school era. And, but I got a lot more coming. You know, these next 2 albums after this one are going to really show a lot more of my dynamics as a musician. But this album is just the straight up Franklin County ballads. You know, they're all different ballads about my life. And if you listen to the whole record, it'll tell a little bit about my life story. Kind of like a little rock opera, but a bluegrass opera.
Absolutely.
And,
I like that.
So that's, you know, one thing I'm really excited about with that.
How did that relationship get started? How did you meet up? How did they hear your
Okay,
music?
so actually, kind of funny. I'm really, in a way, socially awkward to where I don't like posting stuff on social media. I really am critical of myself and my playing. And I post stuff on Facebook and on Instagram and stuff. And back then on Snapchat a lot, but never like on TikTok. I didn't have TikTok at all.
Mm-hmm.
But people would find me at parties and take videos of me and then put them on TikTok. And I had no idea this was going on. Well, my videos, it's funny because I have a TikTok now because I have to, being a musician now, I have to market myself a lot and, expose myself, get my content out there.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, I didn't have a TikTok. Well, the videos that other people were taking of me have blown up way more than any video I've ever posted on my TikTok.
Right.
But that's how they actually saw me. I was at a party and I was playing a song called Little Sadie, which is one I do a lot in my sets.
Yeah.
And somebody took a video of me, ripping down hard on that one, and they saw that and they were like, "Who is this kid?" And they looked me up on YouTube. And, well, they looked me up on Spotify first, I think, but they didn't find me. And they looked me up on Apple Music, and they didn't find me. And they said, this kid's nobody knows who this kid is. And so they contacted me and said that they were interested in talking to me about, what I was planning to do with my music. And I thought it was just a scam, honestly. When I looked it up, I was like, why would they be wanting to talk to me? And then they were like, if we flew down to Roanoke and met you, would that make it more serious? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So they flew down there. I showed them around. They were like, we really want to sign you. And they flew me to New York and, gave me a little tour of New York and kind of told me a lot about the contract and what I'd be doing and how they'd be building me as an artist. And then my lawyer got me hooked up with Dolph Ramsher, who's a pretty accredited manager. And he lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. And his team, Ramsher, manages Sierra Farrell and the Avett Brothers and a lot of good acts. And I got hooked up with him, and he said, well, let me help you negotiate this contract, and I want to work with you. I really believe in your music. And I was really taken away by that, and so I started working with him, and Ramsher's been managing me since earlier this year. And so I got hooked up with them. We got this contract signed, and then we started working on the record again because I had made the record 2 times before this, or tried to attempt to make it. Both times flubbed. The first time we just couldn't get it complete because the guy that was doing it just had other plans and left, and we didn't have anything but a couple songs done, and they weren't all the way done yet even. The second time, it was another time where it was just somebody acting like they were going to help me, and then I went down there and, they were basically like, well, why aren't you doing this? You don't know what you're doing. I'm like, well, that's why I needed your help.
Yeah.
But anyway, that didn't work out really well either, and I wasted a lot of my savings trying to get that record done. And Photo Finish said, this is your vision. This music is too good to not, this music is too good to be half-assed. They said, we want to do this again and make it right and make it perfect. And so that's what we did. And now we got something that I'm proud of, and I'm proud to have you writing the liner notes for it, man. I can't wait for everybody to be able to, see that. I think you really captured the vision there. And it's awesome. I got a lady to do the album cover that lives very close by. She's an artist. Her name's Ann Way Bernard. And she was really good friends with my dad. And she painted a picture for him in the 70s. And it's the mountain, House Rock and Hayes Mountain, which is the mountain behind my house. It's the tallest mountain in Virginia east of the Blue Ridge, and it's a beautiful mountain. It's like my home. When you see that mountain, I know I'm back home. And so she painted that for my dad, and I wanted to this album to feel like it's a time capsule. And not many people have an album cover that was painted 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah,
it was painted in 1978, so it's gonna feel like a classic album.
Yeah, it comes full circle. Very cool.
Yeah, man.
So I know you had a couple goes at recording, but where did you end up doing the recordings for the...
So the actual recordings that I ended up doing for the Tales of Misfortune album were actually in Rockville, Maryland, just out of D.C., with Tom Minty at Patuxent Music. And Tom's a really great dude. He's a historian, just like me, and he's got a bunch of records, except his are all the old records. They're all the shellac records. And
cool.
He's a big phonograph buff, and he's got a lot of the old crank ones and the Victrola stuff. And he's a really great guy, and he helped me get the songs recorded. And Billy had recorded that studio before, and Danny Nicely and David Nicely had too, so it was a really comfortable fit.
Good deal.
It's basically in Virginia. We're trying to keep it as close to home as we can,
Who else played on the album besides...
Oh, yeah, and Brendan Ernst, that I was just talking about, played piano.
Oh wow,
and
what a musician.
that was a really great little pizzazz to add in there because it opens up with a little ragtime honky tonk influence tune called First Snow, or the Wet Dream song, and it's kind of a lighthearted song about the story about this guy trying to go up this mountain road to get to this cabin to hang out with his girlfriend for the weekend, and finally he gets to the cabin. He's about to go in there with his girlfriend, and then you wake up and you realize it was just a dream.
I feel like that song is kind of foreboding of what may be to come. It's a little different than the other songs on the album. It's got that boogie woogie piano.
Yeah, it's
real upbeat.
it's definitely very different. It just opens up the album and sets you right in the setting. And you know, I think it's a good hook for listeners to be like, whoa, okay, what's about to come?
Absolutely.
And just kind of get you started into the story. In fact, I'll probably do First Snow, you know, as another tune. I think that might be a good one to do.
Yeah.
If you're
yeah,
okay
if you want to play it, let's hear it.
Yeah, this is a great one. This one's influenced by a lot of different things. The melody comes from a Clark Kessinger tune, or one that he made famous called Polka River Blues, and it's an old fiddle tune. And I took that and kind of added my own flavor to it and changed it up a little bit and based it like that. And but then it ended up getting that honky tonk swing flavor to it. So then the song became its own song in itself.
Cool.
Well, the winds are howling on the ridge tonight. Long to see such a beautiful sight. Drink a little something that'll get you feeling right. 'Cause outside the railing's froze. Gonna take a trip down a long back road. Come to a cabin with a one-ton door. Smoke rolling out that old wood stove lit by candlelight. Gonna see my baby on the very first snow. Sitting around talk about what we know. Sipping on whiskey and a cup of Joe, getting higher than the national debt. What a voice screaming beneath my bed, and all blood's running to my head. Thinking about what my mama said, I'm trying to forget. Some bad snowball makes me smile. Pop tree makes it all worthwhile. Oh, my truck makes the extra mile up that ridgeline road. Could be hunting, could be trapping, could be fishing, and should be napping. Instead of find myself mapping my way back home to you. Gonna see the baby on my very first snow. Sit around talk about what we know. Sipping on whiskey and a cup of Joe, getting higher than the national debt. Woodwood's creaking beneath my bed, and all blood's running to my head. Thinking about what my mama said, and I'm trying to forget. Woke up from man's past dream, something's wet, so it seems. Something about loving and nicotine that'll make your thoughts go wild. Get up, shower, comb my hair, go to work in despair. Damn, the Sandman did me wrong when I went to sleep. Get up, shower, comb my hair, go to work in despair. Damn, Sandman did me wrong when I went to sleep.
Awesome. Thank you.
Little
That's-
First Snow there. That's
that's a good one.
That's a little dandy that always gets people dancing and puts a smile on their face.
Absolutely. It's cool when you see a song in its album version and then you hear the other versions, and when it, you know, how does it in the songwriting process, can a song really change from one thing into something completely different by the end of
Yes.
it?
I feel like that's how a really true good song gets written. There's a lot of my songs that I treat all my songs like an idea. A lot of songwriters don't write like this. A lot of songwriters write based off of a line in a
Mhm.
song, and they will take that and then try to create a melody. But I take my songs based off of ideas, and I'll have this little brainchild of an idea in my head of a flavor that I want to get, or a concept that I want to capture, and then that concept will start coming out in the writing process. But then somewhere through the process, usually when the best songs I write get written, something happens and it morphs into something else, and then it morphs into its true self. A lot of my songs have been like that. Smoke and Flames and Daddy's Pocket Knife. A lot of my songs, Dreaming Again, they were all written a certain way and then they morphed into something else. Leanne, even. I mean, Leanne was meant to be kind of a bluegrassy feel at first, and then it turned into kind of like a teenage love ballad type thing, like a some type of a anthem almost. And I didn't know it was going to turn out like that, but it did, and I'm really glad it did. Dove Song, I always intended it to be a ballad, but when we got the Billy in there on the fiddle and got everybody to do the lick at the same time, and the dun 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 dun, it really set it in as like, wow, this has really turned into the bluegrass ballad that I wanted it to. And I don't know if they're going to do it yet, but I hope they try to market that towards the bluegrass spectrum, because as a manager, Dolphin, Photo Finish, and all those guys, they're working to push me towards the Americana field. But I feel like there's a lot of my songs that have a lot of heavy bluegrass influence, that have some of the flavors of bluegrass that other bluegrass bands do not have today. They've lost the real soul of it. All these guys just write generic songs, just like the country guys in Nashville writing these hit country songs.
Mhm.
These bluegrass charts are just like generic words that are like country words put together, like mountain stream, da 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 da. Like it's just over and over and over repetitive stuff, and it's like most of these guys live in the suburbs and have never, actually drank out of a moonshine jar before. They've never drank out of a old ball mason jar. But I try to take my songs and add that authentic flavor to them, and I really capture that with Dove's song on this record, because we got the fiddle doing the lick and the traditional 3/4 time bluegrass waltz,
I
and
I
a
love
lot of
that
people,
song.
a lot of people really enjoy it, and I wanted to release it, in September for dove season, but I don't know yet if it's gonna be a teaser or not, but I'm hoping it might be a little teaser that might come out. So
Yeah, one of the most authentic moments in that song is where you hit the word persistent in there.
yeah,
It's a weird word to fit into a song. You put it in there like a puzzle piece. I really like
yeah,
that. It's a cool song.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one where, and you kind of alluded to it already, you can really tell where the place where you're from and grew up is really a big part of your songwriting and
Yeah.
figures into it, and you really bring that to bear, and the imagery is right there for everybody to
Yeah,
see and hold.
I feel like that's the best way to capture people. I don't want to just put random words together. That's always what I've kind of strived for, is to really make my phrases stand out to where people can really be there in the moment with the song. So that's really I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I like your approach. Somewhere I saw Dean Ween talking about songwriting. He said he would start with the title sometimes. I feel like you almost do that with
Yes.
your idea, and then you
Yeah.
never know where it might go from
Yeah,
there.
exactly. That's a really good way to put it, because it sometimes goes like that. Exactly what you're talking about, the title, and then work around that. What do you want the concept of the song to be, before you ever look at anything else?
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to talk about your live band too, which is
Oh,
different
yeah.
players than some of the guys on the album. The
Yeah.
Virginia Creepers.
The Virginia Creepers, they're my boys. The Virginia Creepers was a concept that started right when I got out of high school. Me and Stuart Werner were playing together. He's a year younger than me. He plays banjo, guitar, mandolin. He's just a phenomenal musician all the way around. We were both losers in high school, and we played music all the time, and nobody liked it, and everybody made fun of it, and But we got out of high school and we really wanted to keep going, and we were doing just straight bluegrass stuff, just bluegrass covers. And he's really good at writing melodies, but I was really, really like, I was kind of an in the closet songwriter at that time. Like, I wrote a bunch of songs. I had all these concepts. I had Tales of Misfortune in my head. Like, that was my record, concept that I've had in my head forever, like making this record, but I never got the chance to express my songwriting. Well, then when I first started doing it, people started to be like, dude, you need to do this more. I got Adam Cecil joined in the band, and, it started to morph. And Stewart, he's going to college. He's in Ferrum College, and he wanted to stick to traditional bluegrass, but he was, playing with us at the time, and it morphed from the Werner Helms edition into Colby T. Helms and the Virginia Creepers. And it became more for me about songwriting and taking bluegrass and old time and country music and morphing it into something that is approachable to the an everyday audience. And when I was doing that, he kind of decided that he wanted to do more bluegrass stuff. So then I kind of switched my flavor a little bit, because there's no other banjo player that really can stand up to Stewart's work. I mean, he's, phenomenal, and he's the only one that can play my songs, how they should be played, because I wrote a lot of them when he was with me.
Right.
So then I decided I'd go a different route, and I got a mandolin player. His name's Chandler Beavers.
Yeah.
And he's from White Silver Springs, West Virginia. He's just the puzzle piece that we needed to get the Virginia Creepers where it needs to be. Adam Cecil, he's my right-hand man. Me and him been playing ever since we played old-time dances together. I mean, we would play every Wednesday basically for free for these old people to dance around, and, and we'd play 3 hours at a time and never get paid, and we decided we wanted to do our own thing.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened. Me and Adam started playing together, and, Chandler was the puzzle piece that fit it together, and now we got a really great trio. Chandler just locks in on rhythm, and he keeps us all tight and together, locked in with that rhythm. And then, he's a graceful mandolin player, so he's just the best all-around fit for us. And the Virginia Creepers have really morphed into a time capsule of what my area is, and keeping all the different flavors of the soup in
For
there.
sure. Absolutely. I love seeing Adam play, and he's a good singer too.
Oh, yeah.
When he sings. Does Chandler ever sing?
Chandler's not a big singer,
Yeah.
but he focuses so much on the music and on the mandolin that I couldn't ask for any more as far as that goes.
He's got a solo project too.
Yeah, he's got his own solo stuff going on. He released his album, 409 earlier this year, and that's a really great progressive mandolin album. And a lot of people, that's another thing about Chandler, is he's another person that people might think is a strange fit. Because he's done a lot more progressive bluegrass, but Chandler is just a exemplary musician. He can fit in a traditional bluegrass setting or the most progressive setting ever. He can play rock and roll on his mandolin and get his pedal board out and go trippy with it, or he can go and play gospel bluegrass straight up. So that's why I really, really appreciate his musicianship, because he's not stingy to listen to anything. He'll listen to anything and take from it, just like me and Adam.
So I love that. Well, Colby, I don't want to take too much of your time. I appreciate it. I was hoping you would take us out on one more song before we go.
Let's do
your pick.
We'll do a little cover. Bill Clifton did this one, and Norman Blake, and the Delmore brothers. A lot of the old-timey ones, Doc Watson, they all love this tune right here. It's one of my favorite traditional tunes to play. It's called the Blue Ridge Mountain Blues. When I was young and in my prime, I left my old home in Carolina. Well, now all I do is sit and pine for that old home I left behind. I've got them Blue Ridge Mountain Blues, and I'll stand right here and say, well, I packed to travel, and I'm scratching gravel for that Blue Ridge far away. No work worries anymore. I've got them Blue Ridge Mountain blues. Gonna see my old dog Trey. Well, I'll hunt the possum where the corn doth blossom on that Blue Ridge far away. Well, I see a window in a light, and I see two snowy heads of white, and I can hear them both recite, where is my wandering boy tonight? I've got them Blue Ridge Mountain blues, and I'll stand right here and I'll say, well, them days I'm counting till I find that Blue Ridge Mountain on that Blue Ridge far away. Oh, I'll hunt the possum where them corn doth blossom on that Blue Ridge far away. Oh, I'm packing travel and I'm scratching gravel for that Blue Ridge far away.
Awesome. Thank you, Colby.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's been
I
great.
appreciate it.